Gameon and Victor returned to Ramian Castle. Flik was already in the meeting room with Mathiu, Humphrey, and Sanchez. After the attack on Lenin Camp, Flik fled west to the domain of Milich Oppenheimer, the flower general of the 5 great generals. He tried to gather the scattered forces from Lenin Camp, but was met with a tough crackdown from Milich. As a result, many of his old Liberation Army comrades were captured. Hence, Flik's main objective at the Ramian Castle was to seek help and liberate the captured forces in the west. Mathiu supported the idea, and with the new troops that joined with Flik, the Liberation Army would have enough to attempt to break through the Garan Fortress. The sun sank low over Garan Fortress. The Liberation Army, a fierce coalition of rebels, massed at the eastern edge, their banners snapping in the wind. At their forefront stood Gameon, a young leader with unwavering resolve, flanked by his trusted comrades, Gremio, the steadfast guardian, Pahn, the relentless martial artist, Luke, the brash apprentice mage, Flik, the fiery swordsman, and Mathiu Silverberg, the brilliant strategist. The Imperial Army, 6,000 strong, held the fortress with iron discipline, their armor glinting like a steel tie. Mathiu, calculating every move, had orchestrated the assault, leveraging their superior numbers and Flik's freshly rallied troops. As the war horn sounded, the battle erupted with a thunderous clash. Luke stood on a rocky outcrop, his windrule flaring. With a defiant grin, he summoned a gale, the shredding spell tearing through Imperial ranks, scattering soldiers like leaves. Let's see them stand against this, he called, his magic disrupting their formations, creating openings for the rebels. Mathiu, observing from a nearby ridge, directed the flow of battle with calm precision. His signals repositioned units to exploit every Imperial misstep, ensuring the rebels maintained momentum. Now, strike their center, he commanded, his strategy turning Lutz's chaos and Flik's aggression into a coordinated hammer blow. Gremio, axe in hand, anchored the front line, his green cloak billowing as he deflected a spear and countered with a crushing blow. "Stay close, Gameon," he shouted, shielding their leader from a volley of arrows. Beside him, Pahn wove through the chaos, his boar rune glowing as he unleashed a double damage strike, toppling an Imperial captain with a single earth-shaking kick. Their talisman attack, a synchronized barrage of axe and fist, carved a relentless path forward. The battle was won. Is that all they have got? Turns out the Imperial Army is all bark and no bite. Victor started to get cocky. Mathiu urged caution and suggested to send out a reconnaissance team. However, Flik taught otherwise, and the Liberation Army was immediately thrown into the next battle. The crimson spires of Scarleticia Castle pierced the twilight sky, casting long shadows over the Liberation Army's advance. The Imperial garrison, 12,000 strong, held the castle. As war horns sounded, Gremio and Pahn charged, their talisman attack smashing the gate's defenders. But then, Milich, the flower general, unleashed his trap. Noxious pollen clouds billowed from the ramparts, a poisonous haze choking the rebels. Gameon's forces faltered, coughing and reeling, their momentum shattered. The Liberation Army collapsed under the toxic assault, retreating in disarray. Scarleticia's walls standing defiant, a bitter defeat etched in the rebels' resolve. Those damn roses. We can't get anywhere near the enemy. This is not looking good. The embarrassing defeat had affected Victor's morale. The Liberation Army decided to send in a reconnaissance team instead. Victor and Flik would be part of the squad. And of course, I will go too, young master, Gremio said. As if he had sensed something ominous, Victor urged Gremio to stay put. However, Gremio was reluctant. After leaving my village, I spent years traveling from place to place. I met folks from all walks of life, experienced all kinds of things. That is why I sometimes get these hunches. Gremio, you gotta stay here, Victor explained. Gameon knew that he could not convince Gremio, so he went along with it and allowed Gremio to join the squad. This decision would later prove painful for Gameon and costly for the Liberation Army. Gameon also selected Lepant and Jupo to the squad. Before continuing with the recon mission, there were some recruits that Gameon would like to meet. For the first recruit, Gameon would go to Kaku. Outside the inn stood a young girl, Meg. She had trained under her uncle Jupo, who had already joined the Liberation Army. Meg's adventurous heart drives her to join the Liberation Army, seeking excitement and a chance to prove her skills. The second recruit was also in Kaku. The basement of the bar, where Taiho used to run his gambling den, was took over by another gambler. Gaspar would only offer his service to people who were lucky. He challenged Gameon to a dice game, and if Gameon was able to win 5,000 pots from him, he would join. On Gaspar's first roll, he got a lousy hand and immediately lost the game. A man of his words, he joined the Liberation Army. He would later run a gambling den in Ramian Castle. After recruiting Gaspar, Gameon then made his way to Quan. the place where he would find his next recruit. Lorelai stayed in the inn. Clad in blue, Lorelai was a skilled archaeologist and treasure hunter with a sharp wit and a no-nonsense attitude. Her pragmatic and somewhat aloof demeanor masked a loyal heart. After witnessing Gameon's strength, she would join the Liberation Army to pursue her goals while aiding the cause. The next recruit could be found in Seika. He was a close kin of Lepant. Sheena, the son of Lepant, could be found having fun in the local bar and inn. He was a charismatic and roguish young swordsman, but also a carefree playboy with a sharp tongue and a knack for trouble. Only his father could force him to join the Liberation Army, and that was exactly what happened. Another recruit could be found in Seika. Apple was one of Mathiu's disciples. She blamed Gameon for forcing his master to be involved in another war. She would join the Liberation Army to serve by Mathiu's side. After gathering the recruits from nearby towns, Gameon was ready to continue his recon mission. He returned to Gameon Castle to reorganize his squad. He included Pahn to the squad to train him up for the tough battles ahead. Past the fortress of Garan, the squad visited the nearby town of Tien first. A wise and powerful mage resided at the inn. Hellion, an elderly sorceress from the Scarlet Moon Empire, was curious about the Soul Eater rune on Gameon's arm. She would join the Liberation Army and watch destiny unfolds before her eyes. Hellion would also give Gameon a useful item called the Blinking Mirror. With it, Gameon could teleport to Gameon Castle, regardless where he was on the map. the newly won bridge of Dunan fading behind Gameon as he ventured into the untamed frontier. His boots crunched on rocky soil, cloak snapping in the gusts, as he scanned the horizon for signs of Imperial scouts and towns within the region. The Liberation Army's victory at Dunan had opened this path, and there were several towns in the west to be explored. Recon was south of Tien. Sonier was to the west of Recon. Anti to the north of Sonier. Finally, to the west of Anti, their recon destination, the Scarleticia Castle. What is up with all the pollen? Flik said. Gameon, let's get out of here for now. Victor said. The castle was guarded by Antoinette, a massive, poisonous rose cultivated via Windy's black room. The squad needed to find someone who could make an antidote for the poisonous pollens. The squad returned to Tien and met a villager who told them about a famous doctor named Liukan. Perhaps he was the doctor who could create the antidote. Following the trail, the squad arrived at Recon. They first visited the local appraiser to look at an urn, which they got from fighting the nearby Holly Masters. I give up. This item is beyond valuable. I can't believe there is actually an urn I'm unable to appraise. Jabba, the appraiser, said. He had previously promised that he would join the Liberation Army if Gameon could find something which he could not appraise. Jabba would honor the promise and set up an appraising store at Gameon Castle. The squad then met another townsfolk who told them that Liukan was now a recluse living deep in the mountains. To reach the mountains, the squad would need to take the boat down the river. However, their path was blocked by rapids, and it seemed that a regular boat would not be able to bring them to their destination. The squad then went to Tien. A well-known boatmaker named Jen lived there. We need a boat that can survive the rapids. Gameon said, the Dunan rapids. Interesting, Jen responded. Jen was confident he could build a boat that could survive the rapids. However, he needed some help from his neighbor. Jen joined Gameon's squad temporarily to visit his neighbor, an old inventor by the name of Kamandol. You again. I warned you not to disturb my research. Kamandol was a man with wild hair and a distracted demeanor. He was an eccentric inventor obsessed with machinery and chemical concoctions, often seen tinkering in his cluttered workshop. Kamandol's genius lies in creating innovative devices, and he held the secret to navigate through the rapids. Take a look. This should help you traverse the rapids. Kamandol led Gameon's squad into his workshop. He had invented a machine that operates by burning oil, an engine which could power a boat past the rapids. If the squad could bring the machine to Recon and attach it to the boat Jen built, they could then traverse the rapids. With the plan agreed, Kamandol joined the squad temporarily, and the team transported the engine to Recon. At Recon, Jen and Kamandol ask Gameon and squad to stay at the inn for a night while they work on the boat. That night, Gremio could not sleep. Perhaps he too had a hunch. I have looked after you since you were a boy. At times I feel as if you are my little brother, or even my own son. Gremio said as he stood by Gameon's bed. In any case, perhaps you no longer need me to protect you, Gremio said. The boat was ready the next morning, and the team could continue their mission to find Liukan and make an antidote against the poisonous pollens. This marks the end of the episode. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks, and see you in the next one.